Welcome to the Visibility Palooza. I'm here with Carol Ann DeSimine and Simony.
DeSimine, yes.
Simony, there you go. And so please tell us your name and what you do in a couple of words.
Yes, I am Carol Ann DeSimine, and I am an author, a writer, and the CEO of Goddess 55, which is a publishing company, a boutique publishing company.
I love that. So tell me in 2 or 3 words the name of your specialty that you'd like to highlight today.
Yeah, so I am a self-publishing specialist. I help authors self-publish their books, write their books as well, but a lot of people will come to me with their manuscript to take it to the finish line and do all those pieces as well.
So who do you love working with that loves working with you?
Okay, transformational leaders in the self-help space. Now, I was a business coach for many years. That was kind of my detour. So you would think that I would publish a lot of business books, but that's not true. The people who come to me are in the self-help space. They're transformational leaders, and they might have a modality, a course, just a story. Yeah.
And tell us why you're passionate about the work you do, and is there a story behind it?
There is a story, Laura. I am so passionate about helping women, especially, and men. I do work with quite a few men, helping them become published authors. I have always had a love for the written word. And I didn't even realize how my path kept leading me to, I mean, I was invited to teach publishing at the university, which I did for 10 years. I didn't get a job that I wanted. However, I got a job in a library. I just kept being pulled in that direction. And it was just a natural thing for me. I was never even a big reader, but I was a writer. But I do love working with other authors and getting really intimate with their work and understanding them through their book.
Beautiful. So can you give us a story or an exercise that helps people understand the power of being self-published
Um,
and do that in a full sentence?
yes. So I think the power of self-publishing is that you do have complete control. Publishing has changed so much in the past few years. I've always preferred to help other people publish their books and over publishing my own books. So I've done a lot of research. I know it inside out. I know what's happening with traditional publishing now. It matters more to have a big list because you're going to have to do the marketing. So I know there might be a stigma attached to self-publishing if you're in some realms, not so much with entrepreneurs. We understand the whole, doing it ourselves kind of thing and, taking the lead. But I still talk to people who want to find a traditional publisher and they don't understand that. Well, that's great. Yes, you get the cost up front, but you have to pay back that cost. They want you to guarantee that you will sell your book. So it's not enough just to have a great book. You've got to market it too. So there's that. And then there's the hybrid publishers, which some people will default to. They can be very costly, very expensive. They take a cut of the sales. So there's pros and cons there. I am a self-publishing specialist. So what I do is I do pretty much the same thing as a hybrid publisher would do, but I save I save them a lot of money, but I also help with the writing. So if somebody comes to me, they've never written a book, and this is really how I got started working with entrepreneurial authors, is a client came to me and said, Carol Ann, what I really want you to help me with is to write my book. Well, lo and behold, I had developed a proprietary process called Just Do It Right Now, write your book in 90 days, because I had tried other people's processes and it was a little bit too much structure. So mine is really the goddess way of publishing and writing. So that's how I got back into it. And it really, I mean, I just would say, if you're thinking of publishing a book, of writing a book, self-publish. You still can get a traditional publisher if your book really takes off. But it
Super.
certainly is where publishing is headed. And even more so, it's there now, but even more so. And people are making a lot of money and selling a lot of books.
Let's address the fears around writing and publishing. And maybe you can state the fear, and I can prompt you on some of the ones that come to mind, and then what to do about it. So let's start at the beginning. I'm not a writer, and maybe there's a tip from your Just Do It Right Now, write 90 days tip that you can give us. So state the fear and how a tip.
Okay. So I think the number one fear, the number one question I get from aspiring authors, people who say they want to write a book, is, what do I write about? They're afraid that they will choose the wrong topic. But what I do with my authors now is we research the demand for the topic. I mean, if you're an expert, you're going to write about your expertise. That's pretty much a given, but you want to write about it in a way that's going to sell and that people are going to buy. So I think that that's the biggest question I get. I don't know how much of a fear it is, but I think it holds people back a lot because they just can't make a decision. So that's the number one. I could give you another one if you'd like, Laura. I think another big fear is that they are afraid they won't finish. And I can tell you this, most of the authors that come to me have written 85,000 words. They think they have a book, but it's not a book, because it has that journaling, if that's what they've been doing, writing, brain dumping, it really has to be turned into something that is structured, that people will read and will want to read, because when it comes time, you're going to want to get reviews. And if your book isn't really succinct and solves a problem, you're not going to get the good reviews. So I think that that's really a mindset that I see with a lot of people. So I say, keep your book short. We have to edit a lot, and you probably want to turn this book into 3 books.
That's awesome. So you mentioned a word, edit. How do I get it edited?
Okay, so that is my, I think, my sweet spot, my secret sauce. I think that I've always said my highest level gift is editing. I know what to keep and what to toss. The thing about editing, this is another fear, Laura, I believe, because I'm in a lot of groups of authors, and there is this misperception that an editor will change your words. And that is absolutely not true. An editor is going to make your words more powerful. She will cut the fat, and your writing will be so much better. So you can hire somebody like me, like myself, and there are editors all over the place, but I would really suggest that to find an editor, you make sure you're familiar with her work. Like, I have a process where you can submit I think it's 20 pages, and I'll edit for you. And then you can see my style. I can see where you're at, what kind of editing you need, because there's developmental editing. And that's really, the way I define developmental editing is during the writing process. And then there's content editing, which often is, well, you've got the manuscript pretty much done, but it still needs shaping. Now, these terms, other people might call them something else. And then there's line editing, which is really about sentence structure, fine-tuning the copy, making sure the voice is consistent. That's really content editing, but line editing is more about the nuts and bolts of grammar and sentence structure. And then there's proofreading, of course, which every book needs to be proofread at the very, very end. So editing is so important.
So you said editing is so important. Start with that and tell me, what if somebody is thinking of, just have a friend edit it for me?
Oh, so if somebody is resisting working with an editor, the advice I would say is find a professional. Your friend can read your book and give you feedback, but if that person does not know grammar, language, sentence structure, all those fine points of writing and language, then that's really not an editor. And what I'm seeing a lot of too, Laura, and this is not knocking anybody, but English graduates with an English degree who are fresh out of college and think they are editors. Well, they might know the English language. They might know a little bit more than somebody would say an economics degree, but unless you have that real experience, then I would not cheap out on editing. That's the bottom line. Find a professional, somebody who's experienced, because there's so many different layers there.
Now, getting your book written is one aspect, and then moving into the phase of publishing, well, even designing the book and then publishing the book and then marketing the book. Why don't you outline all the phases that are involved and which ones you really specialize in, or if you do specialize in the whole process?
Yes. Okay. My process is this. When I work with a client, I call it the blank page to bestseller process. That's the full Monty. So if somebody comes to me, they say they want to write a book, they're probably a good writer. They probably have something written. So we talk about that. We go and research the topic, make sure it's a hot topic is what I call it. And we do this 3 times in the process, at least 3 times, but we have to do it up front to make sure the topic is in demand. And then I will send, I'm going to say her away, and she will write 2 chapters. We'll have an outline. I do have a course called Jumpstart Your Book in 15 Days. That's where I have everybody start, because you've got to get the foundational elements. Who is the book for? What do I want this book to do for me? And a couple other things. So they basically come to me with an outline. So I say, okay, now go write your first 2 chapters. They write 2 chapters, give it to me. I edit it, send it back. Then they make those edits, send it back along with 2 more chapters, and we go back and forth that way. So there's at least 2 or 3, or maybe even 4 go arounds. So that's the writing and editing process. Once it's all finalized, the manuscript is approved and done, then I format it. And I use InDesign mostly. That to me is easier, but it's also, how do I say this? Word is more popular. It's not exactly easier for me to work with, but there are advantages of formatting in Word, but you want your book to be readable, you know, font size, spacing, all those things. Readability is very, very important. So I do that. And then the other thing I do is I design the cover. So a lot of my authors, they have a vision for their book. So they might submit their own cover art, which is fine, but I still have to design the cover spread. And that's very, very technical. You have to know how many pages, bleeds and margins and all those things. So that's a biggie. And I also write the description, the back cover description. I help them with the ISBN number if that's what they want. And then before I think that's everything in the publishing process. Before we actually upload it, we go and we research keywords again. And we look at profitability. What books are making a certain amount of money each month. And then we use those keywords when we publish on Amazon and the categories as well. So it gets published. The way I do bestseller campaigns, because the first 30 days are the most crucial in becoming a bestseller and selling your book. Now, there are many ways to sell your book. I have a list. I sell it that way. If you have a practice, you can just, sell hard copies, whatever, but you want to become a bestseller. So the way I do that, I think that process has changed as well. Like the big events are not that popular anymore. So what I do is I pay promotional companies to promote it. Excuse me. And so I'm sorry, I got this. So when it comes to becoming a bestseller, as I was saying, when it comes to becoming a bestseller, the first 30 days are crucial. And there are numbers to look at. And that's another time when we go back and change the keywords. We might change the description because we have to look at what we're up against, right? Who's number one in the category that the person has chosen. And then price it at 99 cents for a few days and just sell it. And my book, I beat a New York Times bestseller in the category of women in business, which was amazing. I was so thrilled because it's not always easy to get to that number one spot in a category when you're up against a famous author or something like that. But most likely you will get number one in several categories. But it is a science. It's an art and it is a science. So I think I covered everything with the publishing process.
Awesome. Totally. So just switching gears a little bit here, because how can people find you to help them through this process?
I would say the best way to find me is connect with me on LinkedIn. You could go to my website, goddess55.com, but to reach out, I would say LinkedIn is the best place. Just search me up and connect, and then message me. And yeah, I'd love to have a convo.
And say it like, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Carol Ann DeSimine.
Okay, yes. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Carol Ann DeSimine. So search up my name and we'll connect.
Awesome. So switching gears to another topic here, since we're here with the EBC, if you were speaking to a colleague, how would you tell them about the Evolutionary Business Council and why should they be a part of it?
Yes, I love the Evolutionary Business Council. And what I love most about it is the people, of course. They are true transformational leaders in their space. So helpful. It's just the energy of the group is something that you don't find in business groups nowadays. They're experienced, knowledgeable, and so, so kind and so helpful.
All right. Any other nuggets, anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
I think I'm going to, the one thing I want to say is that if you have a book in your heart, go ahead and write it. Get over those fears, because that desire is not going to go away until you get your story out. And this is really about telling your story. Nobody wants an encyclopedia. You can write a book about your course or your modality, but it's really the stories that make the difference, that people want to read. They want your personal anecdotes, your personal experiences. It's your purpose. If you have a purpose, put it in a book. And I believe that publishing is my purpose as well. And it took me a while to get here, even though I've been doing it for 30 years. But it's what I love to do. It's what I love to help people with. And this is why I don't publish so many of my own books, although I'm doing more of that. But the reason I started to write my books is that I have so much knowledge, so much wisdom, and you don't want to let it just die out or stop at your business. I mean, when you publish on, say, Amazon, you are reaching the world. So that would be my 2 cents, my biggest bit of advice.
Thank you so much for your wisdom. I really appreciate you sharing all of your passion for the industry and for people getting their message out. So this is a great recording.